Luis Suarez is one of the greatest footballers of the modern age. He's won the Champions League, 4 La Ligas, and the Copa America. He should be universally adored like Lionel Messi, but he's gained a reputation for being the most hated man in Europe. So how did the man nicknamed El Pistolero, aka the Gunman, end up with this reputation? Let's start from the beginning. Luis Alberto Suarez Diaz was born in Salto, Uruguay. His parents, Sandra and Rodolfo, had 7 kids, and Luis was the 4th. His father was a former soldier and an ex-football player. Like many of his fellow South American players, Suarez had a difficult upbringing, living in poverty. From 7 years old, he was raised in Montevideo after his father got a job working in a biscuit factory. Luis didn't want to move, initially staying in Salto with his grandmother for a month. After his mother found work in Montevideo, Suarez had no choice and had to join up with the rest of the family. When he was 9, his world changed, and Luis's parents separated when he was only 9 years old, making life even tougher for the large family. Suarez had an early interest in football, and like so many young boys across the continent, he learned the game and developed his dribbling skills on the mean streets. Despite the family difficulties and the poverty, Suarez was a pretty happy little dude and confident in his footballing abilities. He started at school number 171 in the Tres Cruces province. The school had its own sporting activities, but Suarez, despite being so young, had his mind set on studying soccer somewhere else, preferring to move to Ureta FC in La Blanqueada. Suarez had a tough time adapting to the new city. He said, "We came to a city where it was practically impossible to play barefoot on the grass. They also talked differently there, and of course, often made fun of me. But I had to get used to all of that as best as I could." Suarez had to toughen up. When his father left, it was difficult for his mother to cope. Suarez and his siblings lacked a father figure, and there were times when the family struggled for food and clothes. Suarez often played without boots when he was younger, since they simply couldn't afford them. At 15, Suarez started working as a street sweeper to help support his family, but it became clear to him that his one way out of poverty and to truly help his mother was to succeed as a footballer. Suarez continued to exceed his level playing for Ureta FC. The kid had immense talent, and he was spotted by youth team scouts for Nacional, one of the top sides in Uruguay. Suarez had his first big break, and the rest is history, right? Not quite. Suarez almost blew his shot. See, when he was in his teens and rising through the youth team ranks, Suarez fell in with the wrong crowd and began drinking and lacking focus in training. Suarez's progress had slowed right down, and there was a real danger that the little Pistolero was going to get kicked out of Nacional's team. In Luis's own words, "From 12 to 14, I went through a phase in which football wasn't going well for me, and I didn't want to study. Also, I didn't like to train. I only liked playing games, and that way, it was going to be very difficult for me to achieve something." His career was rescued by the very same man who brought him to Nacional in the first place. Wilson Perez told Suarez he needed to shape up and start working hard. This was a huge turning point. One way led back to a life in poverty, but the other road was paved in gold. Suarez chose the right path. He began working hard, looking after himself, and channeling his wilder side and aggression onto the pitch. He was thinking about his family, knowing that he had a talent that could help give everyone a better life. He also knew that only through hard work and dedication could he earn himself a nice pair of football boots. "I thought about my family, my brothers, and resolved that I'll be able to help them if I go far in football. Next, I had to get on with it. I also looked at some teammates who turned up to training in boots and thought, if you want those boots, you've got to train." Of course, this is Luis Suarez we're talking about. It didn't go that smoothly. At 16, playing for the youth team, Suarez received a red card for headbutting a referee. Suarez claimed that he was innocent and that he'd tripped and fell headfirst into the ref. Sure, Luis, we believe you. He also got caught drinking and partying once again, and his coach threatened to kick him out. Thankfully this time, Suarez took the final warning. He made his first team debut for Nacional in 2005, and he hit the ground running. He had an impressive first season for the team, scoring 10 goals in 27 games, and helped them to win the Uruguayan League. But it was bittersweet for Nacional. They had a hot new talent who would undoubtedly succeed for the Uruguay team, but he had already picked up interest in Europe. Suarez made the move to the Dutch side, FC Groningen. He struggled at first, as he couldn't speak Dutch. After a spell well in the second team, he made his breakthrough in the first team, and his teammates respected the fact that Suarez was making a big effort to learn the language. He was also scoring a good amount of goals. There was a downside to his game though, his aggression. Suarez had a run of 5 games where he scored 4 goals, but also picked up 3 yellow cards and a red card. His discipline was going to be a problem. Suarez then very quickly found himself copped up by Dutch giants, Ajax, after his single season at Groningen. The young Suarez really came under the spotlight with Ajax. They gave him a European stage to showcase his qualities, as well as competing regularly at the top end of the table. Suarez was an instant success and formed a really prolific partnership with Klaas-Jan Huntelaar. In Suarez's first 2 seasons at the club, he scored 39 goals in 64 games. Ajax fans loved him, but the rest of the league and a few other teams Ajax would meet in Europe weren't too keen on him. He was also frustrating his manager, Dutch icon Marco van Basten, by receiving way too many yellow cards. Did the opposition fans have good cause to hate Suarez, or was it simply jealousy? As it turns out, a few classic Suarez traits were born in his Ajax days, one of these being his reputation for diving. Suarez tried a lot of dirty tricks and well-timed dives to try and win free kicks and penalties. In the next 2 seasons at Ajax, he would become the top scorer in the league, win the Eredivisie, and find himself named Dutch Player of the Year 2 years in a row. Suarez was clearly hungry for success, but maybe a little too hungry walking onto the pitch during a game with PSV in 2010. Suarez bit the shoulder of PSV player Otman Bakal, and he was called the Cannibal of Ajax by a Dutch newspaper. Suarez's dark side was beginning to get him a reputation, one that he would soon carry in his suitcase to Liverpool when the cop came calling. Suarez joined Liverpool, initially taking a while to settle. He left Ajax as a team legend, but also in classic Suarez style, he was in the middle of a suspension when he left the team. At Liverpool, Suarez quickly made a name for himself in the Premier League. His diving and fouling made him a target of rival fans' hate. Liverpool fans continued to back their new player though, who came in to fill the void left by Fernando Torres. They just wanted a new hero, and Suarez scored goals and worked hard. What was not to like? 2 of Suarez's most controversial and attention-grabbing career moments are ultimately what have painted him as a player fans love to hate. Suarez was at the center of a storm, having been accused of racial abuse by Patrice Evra. Suarez tried to pass it off as a simple cultural misunderstanding, and also revealed he had black heritage in his family too. The excuse didn't hold up though, and Liverpool's failure to properly discipline Suarez hurt the club's image for a while. Suarez was public enemy number 1 in the Premier League. He was given an 8-match suspension and showed little remorse. In fact, when Suarez and Evra next met on the pitch, Suarez chose not to shake hands with the Frenchman. Later that season, Suarez also received another ban for making obscene gestures to Fulham fans. Did Suarez settle down? No, he came out biting. In 2013, his second notorious biting incident occurred, as Suarez sank his teeth into Branislav Ivanovic of Chelsea. The crazy act became a media sensation, with Suarez being hated by everyone outside of Liverpool. He was also ruthlessly mocked on the internet, with thousands of memes and Photoshop pictures, including Suarez in restraints and a muzzle like a renowned movie villain, Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter. Hello, Patrice. Another lengthy ban was dished out, and Suarez sat on the sidelines for 10 games, which led into the beginning of the following season. The irony, though, was that this was Liverpool's title-challenging campaign with Steven Gerrard's infamous slip late in the season, which saw them concede a goal and ultimately lose the title. However, many believe that Liverpool's slow start to that season, without Suarez in the team, cost them key points. This was the best and worst of Suarez as a player. He scored an insane amount of goals for the club, but he was constantly causing trouble, and Liverpool were still struggling to win the trophies they really wanted to. He also had another one of his most villain-worthy moments at Liverpool, when the team played non-league Mansfield in the FA Cup. The underdogs were close to pulling off an amazing result when Suarez went through on goal. His shot was saved, but the rebound came back to him, and he appeared to use his hand to help the ball go into the goal. He's still hated by Mansfield fans a decade later for cheating them out of a glorious moment in their history. Suarez eventually moved to Barcelona, where he'd have his most successful period by far. And yes, this is Suarez, so he did move to Barca while serving a suspension for biting Giorgio Chiellini during an international match between Uruguay and Italy. At Barca, Suarez formed a stunning attacking trio alongside Messi and Neymar. He won 4 La Ligas and a Champions League at the club, and by his standards stayed relatively away from trouble. But Suarez still managed to annoy opposition fans with his trademark dirty play, diving, and cheating. Suarez, now well into his 30s, seems to be maturing a little. He was a little less aggressive, happy just to dive, fake injuries to time waste, and display the dark arts of the game. He was also eating properly before games now, and being careful about the things he said. Suarez moved to Atletico Madrid, helping them to a La Liga title and breaking up the Barcelona and Real Madrid dominance. After that, he moved back to his first club, Nacional. Suarez is still playing in South America now, with his current side Grêmio in Brazil. At least Luis can look and see a new breed of hated players taking up his position as the one-time most hated player in the game. But will anyone ever be more hated than how much Luis Suarez was in his uncontrollable bite-crazy prime? Let me know what you think.